The towers were made up of heavy steel that had been designed for superior strength.
High-strength steel that had not been available before made this possible.
Building cranes were positioned on the internal steel framework made up of 47 heavy steel supports, indicating just how sturdy this internal structure was. However, the official theory explaining the collapse of the towers claims that an ordinary office furniture fire could actually be responsible for weakening heavy steel to the point of collapse. Imagine all the chefs who cook over a hot blue flame without melting their frying pans. The idea that a much weaker office furniture fire could cause any harm to these steel frame towers is pure fantasy, and therefore required a suitable dramatization to fool the public. A respected science show, Nova, faced the challenge of convincing the public that the impossible was actually the only possible explanation. To do this, it was first necessary to describe the steel supports in the towers as thinner and weaker than they actually were.
But the tall vertical columns of the inner core and the outer walls were like freestanding stilts until Robertson tied them together with floor trusses.
The next step was to create a pancake collapse simulation. Since this is impossible using the laws of science, it was first necessary to remove the outer wall supports that carry 40% of the tower's weight. Since office fires would have negligible effect on the steel structure, it was also necessary to remove all floor connections with the internal support structure. Finally, the simulation would run. But will 110 floors really collapse like pancakes in 10 seconds? Let's time it to find out. The first floor to collapse took 1.5 seconds to fall 12 feet. The second floor was faster at 1 second for a total of 2.5 seconds. As the gravity collapse starts to speed up, ignoring the hundreds of internal and external welded connections supporting each floor, we see 10 floors have collapsed after 6 seconds. This clearly indicates that the official pancake collapse theory cannot begin to explain how the buildings fell in just 10 seconds, and is so unreasonable that it should be immediately rejected out of common sense. Yet it has become the conventional wisdom of the day, and we must all pause and ask ourselves how this could have come about. Our heartfelt condolences go out to the relatives and our prayers to the victims in the towers. Victims like Edna Cintron, who was in her office working in the North Tower on the morning of 9/11. This photo of Edna appeared in the official FEMA report analyzing the damage to the North Tower. She bravely climbed through the debris at the impact zone to wave to news helicopters and let them know that the fires had gone out and the survivors were awaiting rescue. Perhaps she believed that the worst was over and that firefighters would soon arrive. After all, steel frame buildings have never collapsed anywhere in the world before 9/11. Yet on this day, 3 steel frame structures would free fall at the speed of gravity, normally only possible with demolition explosives that take months of preparation. As the official reports state, the jet fuel would have burned away within minutes, and we can see that indeed the fire looks like it is going out on its own. An accompanying diagram illustrates the interlocking steel grid that made up the outer framework of the towers.
I believe that the building probably could sustain multiple impacts of jetliners because this structure is like the mosquito netting on your screen door, this intense grid, and the jet plane is just a pencil puncturing that screen netting. It really does nothing to the screen netting.
Perhaps you are not easily fooled by disinformation. Let's try a simple Q&A to test your awareness. Question: which steel frame tower is more likely to collapse to the ground? Answer: neither. No steel frame tower has collapsed anywhere in the world. Conclusion: if the right tower didn't fall to the ground, the left tower shouldn't fall to the ground either. Problem: black smoke and no significant flames indicate that fire was not responsible. Solution: the World Trade Center steel frame towers were demolished using pre-planted controlled demolition explosives. Note: tall buildings use steel frames precisely to resist collapse due to fire. So why did 3 World Trade Center steel frame towers fall to the ground on 9/11?